So qualifying today in Singapore threw up a lot of surprises, but arguably the biggest surprise of all came from Williams, but not in a good way. They qualified in P12 and P13, which is kind of where you expected Carlos Sainz and Alex Albon to be honest. On the edge of the points, not really going to be in them. This is going to be a track where they are going to struggle around, but they're going to struggle even more than that because they do not start in 12th and 13th. Oh no, they were disqualified from qualifying. They were thrown out of qualifying. This is something we are seeing a lot of. Of course, in the last race at Azerbaijan, Esteban Ocon, he was thrown out of qualifying for a technical infringement, and indeed it's another technical infringement from Williams this time around. And like I said, there's been loads of these disqualifications this year, whether it's in qualifying, whether it's in the Grand Prix. Of course, Ferrari, both the Ferrari cars and Pierre Gasly's Alpine were thrown out for a variety of reasons at the Chinese Grand Prix in just the second round of the season. But what tripped up Williams? Was this the same problem with both cars? Well, yes, the exact same problem. I will show you the official technical documents from the FIA, but basically they're exactly the same. The only difference is that one is for car 55, Carlos Sainz, and the other one is for car 23, Alexander Albon. Now, if you read the actual technical documents that I just put up on the screen, they don't really go too in depth as to the reason why. They do say there is a certain area that is too large, but what is that area? For that, really, you should probably hear what Williams have to say on the matter, because their team principal James Vowles put out an official statement shortly after the fact. Williams said the following, quote, "During FIA scrutineering after qualifying, the rear wings on both our cars failed DRS slot gap checks. As a result, Alex and Carlos have been disqualified from qualifying for tomorrow's Singapore Grand Prix. This is bitterly disappointing for the team, and we are urgently investigating how this happened. At no point were we seeking a performance advantage, and the rear wings had passed our own checks early in the day. But there is only one measurement that matters, and we fully accept the FIA ruling." So they're not going to protest it. There's going to be no chance of that. They accept that they basically had a technical infringement. So essentially, the DRS slot gap, that is the area of the rear wing that opens up when you are opening it up to try and overtake. Obviously, this was in qualifying. They're not trying to overtake. They're trying to be as quick as possible in the DRS zones. The bigger the area that opens up on the rear wing, the more air is effectively allowed to pass through. The more drag is reduced, and therefore, the faster you can go. So like everything with Formula 1 cars these days, this is actually regulated by the FIA. You are only allowed to open your rear wing slot gap over a certain distance. It cannot go above that distance. That is the 85 millimeters that they are referring to. So effectively, if you go over that, you get an advantage over the competition. Now, interestingly, it doesn't actually say anywhere what the distance was. It could literally be 85.1 or it could be 86 or something like that. It could be an absolutely minuscule amount when it comes to that. Now, the actual advantage that Williams will get from this, if it's only, say, a millimeter or a fraction of a millimeter, is extremely marginal. But at the end of the day, you have to draw a line in the sand. Everybody else plays by the same rules. Williams fully accept the decision. So it's kind of move on from there. It's more an internal issue now for Williams as to how this actually happened. Like they said, when they did their own scrutineering, because every single team is constantly scrutineering themselves to make sure they do not fall foul of the regulations. That's part of what free practice is for at the end of the day, to make sure the car holds up and that it's all legal and everything going into qualifying on Saturday. But unfortunately for them, they've made some sort of mistake here. Only Williams can really answer why this happened, to be honest with you, and I'm sure they're probably scratching their heads trying to figure that out themselves. But the important thing is for Sainz and Albon is that they have to start at the back of the grid tomorrow and probably actually start from the pit lane at one of the most physically demanding races on the calendar, the most physically demanding race on the calendar, I should say, and also a track that is very hard to overtake around. So it's going to be a long old Sunday night for these two drivers in Singapore. But yeah, there you go, guys. Williams disqualified from qualifying. You might think it's harsh, but at the end of the day, rules are rules, and unfortunately, they broke them. They didn't do it deliberately, but they broke them. It happens. Like, share, comment, subscribe, guys, if you want to see more of this. And of course, let me know who you think is going to win the Grand Prix tomorrow. Probably not one of the Williams, unfortunately, going off of today's results.